So that was a lot of fun. Damn. But I don't have a headache, so all good. Because two things. One, magic bullet burger at McDonald's at 4 a.m. And then I put a bottle of water on my pillow, which is a present to future me. I always do that when I go drinking. I put a bottle of water on the pillow. You come home, you remember, oh yeah, you should drink some water. Gonna be fine the next day. Sometimes ibuprofen next to my bed on a small desk, but usually I don't need it. Anyway, I had a great time with my friends. We had some nice discussions and arguments and disagreements, and in the end, we came to a conclusion and had a few drinks together. And I mean, that's always like my favorite evenings where you just sit and drink and have intellectually stimulating talks with people and some politically incorrect jokes and so on is yeah, is one of my favorite pastime activities. Absolutely, especially because no one gets butthurt after you attack their point of view, like they don't feel attacked in their identity, like so many people these days. It's horrible. I mean, how do you want to have a functioning democracy with people like that? It is the basis of democracy is to reach a consent after constructive discussions. But with these people, you can't have a constructive discussion, right? I mean, these people, they are just not able to distance themselves emotionally from an argument. Like, they cannot think in a logical way. They can only see their own point of view, and as soon as you attack it, they go butthurt and yeah, they go totally insane. It's a nightmare. Anyway, that's the thing actually I want to talk about today is this thing called logical thinking and probabilities. I think a lot of people have huge problems thinking in probabilities. And for example, every time on Twitter, there's this tweet that, oh, you cannot win in roulette because there's a zero, so there's this tiny edge um, in in advantage of the casino, and everyone is like, really? I didn't know that. OMG. And then you get a million likes and 200 retweets on a tweet which should be as obvious as I don't know, the sun comes up tomorrow because it came up today and yesterday. So people thinking in probabilities is one of those things that is not very prevalent, and I think most of it is due to our education, as always. Some of it is also due to our evolution. It just was never necessary for the brain to think in probabilities. It was always necessary for the brain to think in survival. But these days, thinking in probabilities is an incredibly crucial skill, and thinking in sets of different outcomes. What would happen if you have to do that in a logical way and not in an emotional way? Like, logical thinking and possible outcomes always go way above your emotions or what you think is right or what you think is wrong. What you think, no one cares what you think. You have to look at the facts and then derive a conclusion from that. And don't think about feelings or emotions of yourself or some other people, because in the end, the only correct solution is the one that gives you the desired result with the highest probability. Now, there are some freak scenarios, of course, where um, I don't know, for example, if you do this 99% of the time, like with a 99% chance, you could become the richest person on earth. And with a 1% chance, you would completely obliterate Earth. So, what would you do? Well, I think it depends on your viewpoint of how worthy is life on Earth of you preserving it, for example. And how sad would you be if your life ended? Mm, I talked about this in the last video. So, I mean, there are some thought experiments which are quite interesting in probability theory. For example, there's this other one, game show, where you have 3 doors. Behind 2 doors is a goat, and behind another door is a car. You choose door A, game master opens door C, goat is behind it. Then he asks you, do you want to stick with A or do you want to switch to B? And what is the probability of a car being behind either A or B? Most people would answer 50%. Completely wrong. Actually, you should switch the door to B to increase your chances of winning by quite a lot. Very counterintuitive, but true if you play through all the different scenarios. So if you want to learn how to think in probabilities, which you should be able to as a trader, if you cannot think in probabilities, you're in the wrong business, my friend. And if you want to learn, there's a great book called Rock, Paper, Scissors. I forgot the author, I read it a long time ago. It's a good primer on how to start training your brain to think in numbers and percentages. And besides that, just look at Excel sheets and do some simulations. In Edgewonk we also have a simulator, by the way. Just get a feeling for what happens with different outcomes if you extrapolate them into the future and so on. Something which is really incredibly important, not only for trading but also for your life. I don't think I know it's very important for you. Another scenario I can think of, for example, is what if you don't believe in God, but there's a 0.001% chance that afterlife actually exists. So would you rather be an atheist for 80 years and then have this chance that you are going to hell for eternal afterlife? Or would you actually go to church on some Sundays and, I don't know, just sleep, but you have this tiny chance that actually that bullshit exists and then you can go to heaven? It's not only about probabilities, it's also about risk reward, of course. Like, what is the risk? What is your investment, and what is the possible reward? What is the outcome? So yeah, like the saying goes, there are no atheists in the trenches. Actually, I never understood that, because if you are in war, that's probably the only place, that's one of the places in the world where you can completely lose faith of God. But anyway, like a lot of people when they are old, 90, 95, and they're coming close to the deathbed, then suddenly they start believing again, because there's this slight chance that it might still be true, which is hilarious. But hey, there's a lot of chemistry going on in your brain when you die, so you never know. You never know what's gonna happen at the end of the life when you are taking your last breath. Anyway, I watched this show, When Heroes Fly, and this one character, Dotan Friedman, I'm sorry for spoiling, he gets shot in the back and dies, and just before he dies, he looks into the sky and smiles and says, "Oh, this cursed world." Very, very Shakespearean, quite cool. And I liked that a lot. He was actually happy to move on because he thought this world was so cursed, which just shows that the world becomes a mirror of your self, your point of view. If you are wretched, the world becomes wretched. If you have a beautiful mind, the world becomes beautiful. If you are open and kind to people, they will be open and kind to you, and vice versa. So that's just another way of looking at probabilities and logical thinking, is self-reflection. Like, what is the probability that I'm gonna be happy if I always think about the world in negative ways? Very much zero. So yeah, probability can help you in many ways. If you start looking at your whole life as a gamble, as a chance of something happening versus something not happening, man, a lot of possibilities open up, and you will be a much happier person in the end, because you feel that you have control over the outcome, even though the outcome is not certain. Interesting. Anyway, I'm going to Stanley Art Market now, which is like has been a tourist attraction for many years, many decades in Hong Kong. You can buy paintings. I want to buy some paintings of the Hong Kong skyline for my apartment in Frankfurt. And I read an article the other day that the art market is losing customers, losing revenue. They are struggling since 2009 or so to sell their stuff. And they're complaining, playing the blame game as always, online shopping, blah, blah, blah. The truth is, they are selling imported products from mainland China, and the tourists that come to Stanley Market have changed. Whereas formerly they were white European dudes and women, now it's mostly mainland Chinese people. Why would you buy products imported from China if you just come from China? So instead of blaming and waiting for a slow death, just adapt to the conditions. Come on. Another way of logical thinking, but they're playing the emotional blame game, blaming other people while slowly going broke. Great technique, love it. Simple answers for complex problems is what people love and is what owns politics. If you think about Hitler or if you think about Trump, how they came into power is because they offered simple solutions for complex problems. Simple solutions are always wrong, but they are very appealing to us because we cannot think logically and because we cannot think in probabilities and because we love to blame other people. Human brains, man, very inferior products. Time for AI to take over. Alright, I'm out of here. Gonna buy some art. Peace.